welcome to the show with me, Dan, and my guest, Master Aaron Eucalyptus Forde the Great. How you doing?
Even better that you said my name in complete form.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah.
Can I just say that was Aaron who wanted me. I asked him, as I ask all the guests, do you want me to say your full name or just... And apparently that is Aaron's full name, so that's beautiful.
On the passport. Not sure about the birth certificate, but it's definitely on the passport.
So is great.
One of them.
You're technically, or like, what's your surname? Is there?
It's a tough one. It's like a triple barrel. So the is actually technically one of my last names. It just happens to be the Great.
So Forde the Great is your full surname.
Yeah, technically, Eucalyptus is my middle name.
Your middle name, and Master.
Given to me by my great grandfather.
You have Master. Why do you have Master at the front of your name? Because I think Master gets cut off at like when you hit 18 or something.
I think it's 16. But no, I decided to try and break the norm, My grandfather, actually great-grandfather, gave me the name because he was a cheese dealer.
Okay.
I'll let you know. Which is where he gets his name from, eucalyptus.
Ah.
Which, as you know, is a famous cheese. And he was master of his craft, and I think that's where...
Oh, right. So Master is your actual name?
It's more my title, I think,
right, okay.
and general... I'll just go with title.
Well, beautiful. Okay, so now we've got that out of the way. I'll just briefly say how I know you and why I wanted you on the podcast.
Okay.
So we met at uni.
We did.
I think it was around... I think we would have met in first year, but I think...
we were aware of each other's presence.
Yeah. We sort of sensed each other. Even before I went to uni, I sensed there was something happening.
Like a cool fart in a crowded room.
Yeah. That's... I mean, so is that...
Smell it. It's here somewhere.
So yeah, I mean that's not how I'd describe it, but that's poetically described. So
comes from the master.
So we met in. I think we got to know each other much more in second year, where we made an award-winning short film together.
Absolutely.
The Paperboy, which actually has got a great story that I always remember, but we'll have to get to that later, that you had when you told someone that you just directed a film called The Paperboy, but we'll get into that a bit later.
Probably my crowning moment.
Crowning, nice pun there. And then I think third year we lived not too far from each other, like a few doors down basically, and then we became closer with that. And then ever since then we've sort of been close after uni. That's sort of how we know each other. And then the reason I wanted you on the podcast is, first of all, for your amazing full name. And
most people do, Dan. Most people do. Get in line.
But also because you are a filmmaker.
Yes.
You've been doing filmmaking consistently as a job ever since uni, and which I have, apart from a 2-year break.
To find yourself.
I didn't find myself, Aaron. It was a complete waste of time.
Well, it's all right. We found you for you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's fine.
We've both obviously did a filmmaking course and been involved in filmmaking, and that's been our main profession. So I thought it'd be interesting to mainly hear your sort of experiences, but also just to share experiences and opinions, and hopefully it'll be interesting to someone apart from just us two.
Hopefully.
But yeah, so that's.
Otherwise, what's the point, Dan? What's the point?
We're just flagellating each other.
Yeah, just basically tickling each other's balls. This is all we're doing.
If my grandma or auntie were listening up to that point, I think then they've just turned it off. But yeah, I mean, tickling of the balls might be, something that will get people to listen to the podcast.
Satisfying the scrotum, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I wanted you on, and I guess one place to start is when did you start like becoming more interested, or start to get an idea of filmmaking and films in general, that this is something you were a bit more interested in than just sort of a normal sort of film watcher, I guess.
Yeah, I think my interest sort of like grew at college, I think, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I kind of did a college course called, I think at the time it was like e-media, and then it was only a 2-year course, and then the second year it got changed to iMedia. So it was a little more keeping with the times with the iPhone and all that.
Nice. Sponsored by Apple.
And yeah, I think that's why it was. It could have just been in, I don't even know what it stands for. But yeah, it was just like it was a course that basically covered all bases. So we did like web design, magazine design, layout, Photoshop, Illustrator, film, animation, like everything under the sun. I think just
so why did you choose that to do at college? Was it just something because these were they sounded sort of fun type thing, or
yeah, I just couldn't do anything else, Dan. No, yeah, I don't know. Do you know? I don't actually really know. I think I've always been quite into like. I was really wanted to be an animator when I was younger. So like, cause I really enjoyed like watching The Simpsons, and I used to draw a lot. And then I started. My uncle managed to get me like I think a cracked version of some software, and I started animating on that. Very simple animation, almost like South Park style.
Nice.
Yeah, it was just kind of fun, like creating stories and creating all these kind of characters and things like that. They were never like there was never any depth to them. They were just like things I could or enjoyed drawing.
Do you mean like character depth or like?
Yeah, character depth. There was no like emotional depth to these characters. It was just very like what you see is a 2D example.
Yeah,
that's as far as it goes.
So you were doing that before college?
Yeah, I was sort of doing that between like after school. I was like good at let's step back. I was good at art and maths at school, so I was basically Rodney when I left I left school. So that was kind of all I had. And then when I wanted to do something with art, and because I didn't even have an English GCSE, so I had to do my English GCSE in college. And that, yeah, I don't know actually. It's like been quite a while. I'm not sure why I chose it. I just knew I was in. If I'm looking back on it, I could only just guess that that was kind of why I wanted to do it. I just wanted to get an idea of, I enjoyed drawing and animation, so I think that might have been why I went. And I had to do a photography course actually, a photography project to get on board with this, and then actually like put them into Photoshop.
Oh, okay.
And edit them in in a somewhat of a creative way to show that I can use the basics of Photoshop and generally know how to take a photo.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was
so that was it 2 years at college then, was it?
Yeah, so 2 years at Barnfield College in Luton.
Nice.
Big up. And yeah, so 2 years there, and then I met a good couple of friends there who actually kind of, I don't know, sort of influenced, I guess, a lot of music style as well that I was into. I met a bunch of friends outside that sort of influenced what I wanted to do further on. I kind of got a little bit more into film, and there was a few of my friends that are also doing film as well, and they kind of had a few little music projects. So we'd end up, going to film people playing guitar in some park or something, and then we'd edit it together. And yeah, it just kind of, I don't know, just sort of, there was never really like a pinpoint of like, this is what I want to do. It was just sort of, I think, a cumbersome amount of moments that led to.
It sort of came quite naturally type thing, like one thing led to the other.
Yeah, not necessarily naturally. I think it's like, it's kind of taken a while to kind of be comfortable with what I'm doing, but it was natural in the sense I was more comfortable in wanting to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Rather than doing something else, that it seemed a little bit more worthwhile to focus my energy on than anything else.
Right. Okay. So, were there any like specific projects at college or anything that sort of were really interested in or really sort of stood out?
Well, if you want to actually date this back, I've just remembered this now that you've perked my my memory ears. Um, Me and my bandmate Dan Collins, when we were younger, we used to, so our mums were good friends, our dads were good friends, and when we were probably of the age, sweet old age of 9, and he must have been about 11 or 12, so I think he's about 2 3 years older than me. We obviously, when our parents would hang out, we'd get out we'd get out like our camcorder and like action figures and swords and guns and things like that we had, and make little stop start films on our camcorder. A lot of them revolved around the name of like Taliban attack. Um, and I think yeah, we played like news reporters. I think Dan played a news reporter that looked like Hitler. I think I
Proper
play
satire type stuff. Then
yeah,
really
oh,
highbrow.
absolutely. Yeah, it's a real what's his name? It's a real kind of Charlie Brooker stuff,
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it was. So I mean, I guess from there, that particular project was probably, and that was a full length. Oh, we did a scene. We kind of incorporated a scene from Rush Hour as well. That was me being shot, obviously using ketchup.
Nice.
And we used a particular line from that film that we really liked. Yeah, so from there, that was probably my first achievement in the film world.
Nice.
Yet to be released.
Yeah.
Yet to be released because it's been lost. Probably for the best. To be fair.
One of those great lost films that no one's ever going to get to see.
Hopefully, in like 100 years' time, like the Egyptians being sort of unearthed over years, all in its really well preserved casing.
Beautiful. Yeah.
They'll crown its shining moment upon some cinema in the future.
Yeah.
Then, well, at uni we had to do quite a few projects, and I was quite into sort of heavy metal slash. I don't really know how to describe them, but like pendulum, so kind of like drum and bass, I guess. I was kind of into that, not like heavy drum and bass, but pendulum, Prodigy, all of that. So we had a project to do on an outbreak, I think it was, and we ended up choosing swine flu, because I think that was actually at the time swine flu was kind of hitting everywhere.
This was at uni or college, was it?
This was at college.
Right,
yeah. So this is college. And there was the old hat factory in Luton that actually got burned down. We used to, when we were kids, like run around in it. And actually, weirdly enough, my nan actually used to work there when it was sort of in operation.
Right.
But anyway, fast forward to obviously this particular project, we used that as our location. And we started out with a doctor giving sort of like a surgical procedure onto a patient who had swine flu, and ends up biting the person, because obviously the swine flu develops into some kind of zombie bacteria.
Yeah.
And the whole thing leads on as this doctor who sort of tries to get out of the sort of burnt down industrial hospital that we tried to fashion as a post-apocalyptic setting.
Nice.
It was quite cool. I mean, the setting was obviously made for us because it's some lucky guy burnt it down. So he helped us out there. So that was.
So was there quite a lot of? Were you quite creative? You said you were good at art, so did you have quite a creative streak then when you were young? That sort of you took to these things a bit more than maybe like sciences and other things.
I think so. I mean, I don't know whether it's something to even like talk about from my kind of parents and things like that, but my dad, obviously, like, he used to be in a band, so he's very musical, so he's always been quite creative in that sense. My mum's always, she's like an amazing artist in herself, and she does she crafts things and makes things, so there's always been that kind of I guess that creative push with the two of them as I've been growing up. So even if it was purposeful or not, it's obviously somehow subconsciously rubbed off on me.
Yeah. So, like, when you picked your course, what course did you pick for uni?
I think it was digital film and post-production technology.
Right. And was that why was it that specific course? Was it to do with the
I
animation
th
or?
Yeah, I think so. I think at the time I didn't. I think at the time I really wanted to work on like big film, like kind of Hollywood feature film kind of thing.
Mm,
And because I didn't really know. I mean, I've always been into it, but I get so distracted and I'm so easily uh, sort of not focused. I don't know if
mm.
that's the best way to say it, but I'll do some research and then I'll be like, all right, now I'm done with this research, and it'll be
Yeah.
sort of surface level stuff. So my understanding of the film industry then was like, oh, if I go to uni and I do this course, I'm going to be taught how to use all these amazing bits of equipment and things like that. So what I obviously didn't realize at the time was that it was a very all encompassing uh, course, quite like my college course. A little bit more narrowed down to like editing, but there was like 3D animation, some other animation. And as I was going through it, I kind of found myself being more comfortable, more creative, and actually enjoying editing and filming more. So I think on my second year, I decided to drop all of the um, 3D animation courses just because one, I hadn't practiced it enough slash had enough education on it, so it was quite jumping in at the deep end because obviously the majority of the course was filming and editing, but there was obviously the addition of animation, which I think the uni assumed I had some back knowledge of,
Right. Yeah.
but I didn't.
Yeah, I had that
I
at uni.
lied.
So did you change your course, or did you're still on the same course,
No.
but you just changed some of the?
Yeah, I didn't change it. I stuck with it. I think it sort of changed its um what's the word? Not curriculum. It's modules. I think I don't know
Yeah,
as to. I think yeah, over the course of a few years. But yeah, what course did you take?
I did film production technology, so it was very
Right.
much just films. I never had an interest in sort of animation to do. Like I always loved animated films. It's sort of the type of films that I always say that I love watching and I have such admiration for, but I'd never want to make is animation. It
Mm.
just I don't even know like how you can even think about directing something like that. Yeah, just for purely from a sort of directing point of view, because it must be such a strange process, like compared to like directing actors and setting up for scenes and all that sort of stuff. Where you, yeah, I guess it just seems really, yeah, just really really difficult, I guess.
Yeah.
So, but I had a similar experience with like at uni in terms of sort of the course expecting me to be at a certain level, and it was in one module, and I think it was like the first lecture we had, or yeah, it was definitely one of the first modules we did in first year, and it was just a Photoshop one. It was just like building like cityscapes or like taking a picture of a cityscape and then making it like apocalyptic and stuff. And
Yeah, I do remember that.
yeah, and I was just sitting in the lecture, and I don't know. I mean, obviously, in my head, it just seemed like everyone was like nodding along, going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, easy, easy," and I was like, "Oh my!" Like I had never used Photoshop in my life, never.
Man.
I don't think I even knew what Photoshop was. Um, so yeah, I was just like, "Oh god," and I had a bit of a panic moment.
I
But
have a feeling that was a little later. Well, maybe it wasn't because obviously we've got to choose our courses a little bit more. We were able to focus our energy on the courses we wanted to do. But do you not remember Luke's one? So Luke is like one of our friends from uni who was just like one of those guys that are good at everything.
yeah, yeah, I don't remember his no.
His was just he took a photo. I think when he went to Chicago or something, and he like, oh man, it was like seeing a film. It was like, I don't know, have like some kind of like screen grab of like a Michael Mann film.
Right, so I'm glad I didn't see that, because
Yeah.
then that would have made me feel even worse. So, yeah, I mean, that was, to be fair, I think that was the only module where I was like, I'm really out of my depth. I remember at the exact moment sitting in the lecture hall thinking, what have I done? Like, I'm not ready for this type thing.
Mm.
I mean, we had stuff later on, like I think it was in third year or second year, which was like After Effects, which was like, but that was all step by step. Like we had literal like tutorials, which tells that you could, a 12-year-old could have done it. It was very much like just click this button and do that, and it was really easy. Yeah. So, I mean, what was your feelings going into uni? Was it just sort of falling into it, or did you feel like it might progress your career, or was it just you wanted to go to uni for the fun of it? Like, what were some of the main reasons you wanted to just go to uni?
Well, there was a point where I had to, because I took like 2 years out trying to work out what I wanted to do, and then my dad moved to Mexico.
Okay.
And my mum and dad basically came together and said, look, if you're not going to do anything, you're going to go and live with your dad. So I was like, all right, I'll go to uni.
And you didn't have a sombrero at the time, so...
I didn't, no, I didn't. Or my name, Forde, so that sort of spawned from a Mexican altercation.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
don't talk about that.
So it was basically trying to escape Mexico, in essence.
Well,
why you went to uni.
Saying that, I at the time, yeah, I guess, but like I'm kind of like, why the flip did I do that? Because that would have been a pretty cool life to have had. No, I think it's just I did know that I wanted to do something. I did want to go and do something in film, but I think at the time when I was kind of working, and I was just like a bit of an arse, and I wanted to do stuff with film because I quite enjoyed what I came out with in college. And actually, sorry, me and my friend set up our own business, which was quite funny. I was actually started doing web design for a spell.
Oh, okay.
I completely forgot about that. So yeah, when we kind of came out of college, my friend, who I was like really good friends with at the time, he set up a business with our old college tutor, actually, who was very weird. And he then invited me along to kind of help out, because we'd hang out all the time, and he would tell me about what's going on. I was like, man, I need a job. And he was like, oh, come and work for this. Like, I'm getting paid. We're getting projects in. I'll teach you how to code. So he taught me how, like, the basics of code, which at the time, even just trying to learn it now, it's like, how the hell do I have the patience? It was obviously at like the kind of the era that you are definitely a bit of a sponge for information, because I picked it up quite easily and quite well.
Nice.
Not to like any kind of standard, but I was able to, create a website and just do the basic. Yeah. And then we started doing, I tried to kind of go, right, I want to do more film within this company. So like, you do the website stuff, and I'll like film, promos and things like that for companies. And then that sort of fell through. We actually had a bit of a falling out. And then I think for the next year I was just sort of bimbling around, getting like the odd temporary job here and there, not really focusing on anything. And I think that's when it all kind of, it was over time that, they kind of came together and went, look, you've been basically living at home for way too long now. And you need to do something. And I wasn't not driven. I was just more susceptible to wanting to have fun. Which kind of, still am to some extent, but I'm not allowed back home anymore. So there's a small little factor of rent I need to figure.
Damn responsibilities.
God, no, man.
So
it's the thing they don't teach you in school.
No.
Responsibility. They teach you Pythagoras. What the hell is a protractor?
They teach you about
They don't go, hey, think about these responsibilities.
Like how to cook a pie, that's a responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I need to feed myself and potentially my 4 kids that I now have, because you didn't teach me about protection. Oh, well, you did. I just weren't listening.
So looking back on it, so do you feel like, what were some of your sort of feelings going into uni at the start? Like, what were you? Was it quite
nervous?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I was quite because it was like sort of the first time I'd living on my own. So I think I went when I was. So I think everyone went when they were like 17, 18 to uni, and I went when I was 19, turning 20. So I was like 2 years behind a lot of people. especially like my friends that may have gone to uni and things like that.
Mm.
So it was quite nerve wracking, and obviously like moving away from home and things like that. I think it's natural for anyone moving away for the first time.
But
But
like
yeah,
with
I
the
mean,
course and the filmmaking specifically, like
the course, I felt I didn't feel so nervous. I was more nervous about just like generally having to start all over again in a way, in terms
yeah.
of like social side of things. But in terms of the course, I was really excited for the course because I don't know, I do get quite excited with projects and things like that. I do like, and I think I haven't really been any different throughout the years I've been alive. Um, yeah, so I think I was really into it. I was nervous about coming just because it was like far away and this, that, and the other. But in terms of the course, and I was really excited, which is
Nice.
probably what kind of kept me going, while I was there. Because I think there were times when it was like, man, I kind of want to come home. This is really weird. But the course, and then obviously over time, the people I met, excluding you, was no, yeah, when it kind of made everything a little bit easier and just more enjoyable especially when you're there with like-minded people. Going to uni, so my cousin's just gone to uni, and it was apparently quite a chore well, not a chore, but like he just didn't want to go. He was very adamant that he's like, I've made all my friends are here, I don't want to go, blah blah blah. And he wanted to do stuff with photography, but there was a slight lack of confidence in how to go about becoming a photographer for all these, the things he wants to do. And he was kind of saying to us, like, even just talking to him, from my point of view, it was like I didn't, from how I look back at it, I don't see uni as necessarily like, the way to go about doing things, but it just gives you like tons of confidence in what you're doing and kind of shows you what's actually going on in the industry.
Right.
Rather than or someone actually, having someone tell you what's going on opposed to you having to look up what's going on. You've got someone who knows what's going on in the industry and can kind of like give you like little bites of it at a time in like a really like progressive way. Whereas if I didn't go to uni and tried to look it up all on the internet, I'd be bombarded with all kinds of things that I probably, one, don't need to know, two, might be outdated, three, just might be a bit of a waste of time.
But do you think
All these things.
it's more instead of the internet actually sort of going in and getting experience? I mean, do you think obviously you don't regret, but do you think you it's as good an option to go to uni to study film than to go and actually just work in the industry for 3 years, or like to
Oh man, absolutely. I think if you can, that was my main thing here. Was I think with my sort of my cousin story here was that there didn't seem to be confidence or a passion to kind of go and try and get in there.
right.
So it was, for me, when I was thinking of it like that, it was like, well, I think uni is going to be like a good opportunity, or like if you can get yourself into like kind of work placement or something like that. But at the time, uni was like the only option. So it was like, that's the only thing that I think is going to, one, take you out of your comfort zone, which you're kind of in, and two, going to kind of show you, have people around you telling you what's going on and how to do these things. If you've got that confidence and know-how as well, because that was the one thing I lacked. I just didn't know how to go about doing things. Or kind of making contacts. It was like, how do I go about? I remember wanting to do wedding videography, and the way I did it, I just went down to a massive venue in Luton and just handed out my business card and said, I do wedding photography videography, and they were like, who are you? I would just take it, like, it was, you can kind of take a bit of a punt with it, but I think if you're naturally gifted in that kind of way, then brilliant. But if there's help being offered along the way, I mean, looking back at it now, I'd say definitely take it.
So you think actually the confidence is one of the main things then, that you
Confidence,
feel like you
yeah,
get from
massively.
uni?
I think, yeah, confidence. I mean, yeah, I think that for me is like a massive, if not a heavy part of what people do. I mean, a lot of people, even in their adult years, still don't know what they're doing, but they have the confidence to pull it off, and at least have the confidence to either admit when they're wrong, or have the confidence to be able to bring it round to being the right thing if they, fail or mess up or something. So yeah, I think, and especially when you're at uni and you're with like-minded people doing the thing you want to do. Like for us with film, we kind of bounced off each other. We gave each other confidence in expressing our own ideas. Yeah, I think I think it plays a big part, and just
Yeah.
living alone as well.
Well, that's an interesting thing because I think, me looking back on it, even though I'm really grateful for all my experiences at uni, I do feel like there's a part of me that is like these sort of more artistic and creative professions. You're better off just trying to do industry stuff and trying to get actual hands-on experience.
Yeah,
I feel like that is personally, I feel like that's more beneficial over those 3 years. Like I can just imagine 3 years actually being in the industry. I mean, I guess how it depends on how you judge it, because like you say, if you end up becoming a more confident person from going to uni, or you end up meeting friends who end up being your closest friends for life, or whatever it is, then it's difficult. But I think in terms of just pure career progression, I feel like 3 years in the industry would be serving a creative person a lot better. Whether it's music or art or film or whatever.
absolutely. I think it does also then go down to a person by person basis. So, for instance, as much as it probably would, agreed. Like, if you can get out of school, even, skip college and go straight for it, amazing. If you've got that kind of link or connection or know-how. But if like for me, even I had no idea how to do it, so it was almost like I could, those 3 years probably for me would have been wasted had I not gone to uni, because I wouldn't have known and may have not still known. I'd have trailed. It would have taken me longer to understand and be confident enough to kind of go out to all these industry, brands and things and
Yeah,
that you want to work with the work you have now. That's for me. So I think
that's
I
cool.
completely agree. Like 3 years, in the industry, if you can get it. But then, I think it does boil down to, that individual who is doing that. If they're not confident or
Yeah,
have the skill set, to kind of pull it off,
it's almost like
then,
smaller stepping stones, isn't it? As opposed to trying to make
yeah,
one
absolutely.
big step and trying to, well, I guess confidence wise, trying to take a huge step which you don't feel like you can ever do, and then you end up just giving up. Actually, doing the stepping stones of uni might help you get somewhere that you wouldn't have done otherwise. So yeah, I mean that's an interesting point in terms of like the more filmmaking side of it. What were some of the key things that you took from uni? Like some of the things maybe you just didn't understand before, like more sort of overview stuff. Obviously you learned lots of technical stuff like what shutter speed
Yeah.
is and all that sort of thing, but like was there any areas of filmmaking that you really appreciated more, any types
Yeah, I
of
mean,
filmmaking?
scratching the surface, it was obviously and like you say, the technical things, whether access to cameras, access to all the equipment that you get, which is something, and again, if you haven't got that tap into the industry when you don't go to uni, it's going to be something you might lack. But yeah, in terms of what I think is one, it's like, actually being able to work together as a team, work out each other's strengths. For instance, us, when we work on a project, we know what our strengths are, and and it's almost quite good, especially for when you do establish those or kind of come to understand them, is because then you kind of work better as a team rather than someone trying to do everything, another person trying to do everything. You kind of, that's for me what I took away, was actually trying to home in on your personal strengths. And also just being just understanding the levels of creativity as well and how it can be interpreted. And again, that is something that comes with there's a slight air of confidence that I think you have. But all these different projects and ideas that you see, it's amazing to see so many people come together and kind of put their ideas forward without any hesitation as to how they'll be received. I don't know if you remember that director that came in, that Tom Geen.
Oh, was
Like, he
that he
always
did?
sticks.
Yeah, what was that again?
He just sticks in my mind because he had those three short films. The one where the woman with the extended finger who was
Yes.
caged up.
Yeah.
All these kind of short little,
Very strange
kind
films,
of
weren't
just
they?
very strange films, but had a really kind of like sinister reveal. There was a
Yeah.
guy that wanders into a pornographic shop and buys a blow up doll, goes home, has sex with it. He almost cries and then washes it and then returns it. It was like just a simple little idea like that. It's just so like messed up, all these things, and it's weird. Like, I haven't actually seen that film since uni, and I still remember it. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I think they're like they're the sort of things that I think you can kind of take away. Is just the understanding of other people's imagination and creativity, and it kind of inspires you. Like sometimes
Yeah.
you don't know what you're doing with your project, and just watching other people work, especially when you are working with a team, just really kind of gets like the motor going, and you know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about that Tom Geen guy. Like that had a big effect on me as well. It was it was so strange. I think every time someone sort of pushes the boundaries, or not even pushes the boundaries, does something that's very unique to them, and very very much like, well, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what's happening right now. Like this, even the style and the feel and the music it just feels really off.
Yeah.
And it's great to watch that sort of stuff. I think even as a filmmaker, if you've been doing it for years and years, I think it's a really good practice to try and every now and again watch a film that you think is going to be so just strange, not awful, because you can get really awful films that are just really generic still. Usually the most generic films are the most awful.
Yeah.
But
Have you got a film that you would suggest watching in that kind of nature?
what that's really strange?
That's strange and has, might be slightly out of your regular viewing.
Um,
Sorry to butt in there.
no,
I
no,
realise I
no. I'm
cut you
just
off a
trying
little
to. I mean, the only thing is, I watched Parasite recently,
Oh yeah.
and that was that's just jumps into my mind because it is a strange film, but it's not strange enough. It's very likable and it's very entertaining. I did actually. There was an example at uni. I watched. This was I think the only real film I've ever watched, apart from when I was maybe a kid, where I just decided to go into the uni library. We had loads of films there, and pick up a film and not know anything about it. Like pick a film that I just basically judged the book by its cover type thing. Just looked at it, didn't even read the back to see what it was about. Just looked at it and go, I'm just going to give that a go. And that was a film called Walkabout, which is by a guy called Nicholas Roeg, I think, Roeg. I think I may be getting that wrong. I might be getting his first name wrong and his surname wrong. But the film was called Walkabout, and I'd never seen. I've since have had more of an understanding of what his sort of films are like, and he's made some really fantastic films. But I had literally no idea, and that was a really strange film. It was so ungeneric, and you just didn't have a clue where the story was going, and it was really arty, but it was enjoyable, and it was such a good experience because I was just like, wow, I just had this experience that I've never really had, because I'm a sucker for trailers. I always tell myself, don't watch the trailer, don't read reviews, don't do all this, don't prep for seeing a film, just
going cold.
But I never do, because I just get too excited. So yeah, Walkabout was one which really was like a really interesting experience. There was another one which I knew a bit more about. I remember I watched at uni. It was a Dogme film. So Dogme is sort of like these rules come up by I think it was Lars von Trier, this Dogme movement, I think it was, where you have to, there's no music you're allowed to add. I think you're not allowed to edit it. You have to sort of film it in order and then sort of edit it in camera.
It's like a bit of a stop-start.
Yeah, it's like like you used to do as a teenager, I guess, where you just like
literally. I mean, Lars von Trier, your heart out.
Yeah,
coming in from such a young age.
Yeah. I think you're not allowed to use any lighting. It's just basically got to be as raw as possible.
Yeah.
And there's a film, I can't even remember the name now. It's a road movie. That's really annoying. But yeah, it was part of that Dogme movement, and that was very strange. So yeah, what about you? Was there any films that really sort of shook you up and like what the hell is this?
Yeah, there has been a few. I mean, one that sort of comes to mind, and I think this comes from our kind of love of character development and character understanding. Kind of especially when we just, I don't know don't want to just point out films that we've done here, but Transients, those kind of characters that we worked on with, or you worked on mainly, but the idea of kind of understanding a character and who he is. But this is the one thing that kind of got me. There was a film called Crystal Fairy and the Magical Cactus.
Oh yeah,
And
you showed me that. Yeah.
yeah, and it was directed by Sebastian Silver, I think it was.
Yeah.
And the reason I really like that one, because it was a really kind of like, there was no real, it was like a bit of a journey film with Michael Cera basically. But all of his kind of like friends that he'd made, it was all set in Chile, and all of his friends that he had out there. And it was just a journey to try and find mescaline from the cactus and then just go and have a trip, basically, at the beach. That was like the premise of the story. But like all these little stories came along the way. Like it was just such a simple storyline, but it was almost like I felt, I don't know, obviously the process that went through it, but I felt that could have been like the starting ground of a story. And then what they'd done is they interjected a few different characters along the way to kind of build up the story, make it slightly different. And obviously the show up of Crystal Fairy, who plays this woman who's almost like his conscience in a way. And it was just I really liked it because it was very strange. It was still a strange film, considering, and the reason I thought it was strange was because of how I knew Michael Cera. Michael Cera being this kind of American comedy film, with Judd Apatow and all those kind of films. That's kind of how I saw him. So when I saw him in this particular role, he basically played like this arsehole, drug-taking drinker who really didn't care about his friends.
Just a really horrible person, wasn't he?
Yeah, it really was. I mean, it wasn't, and he was quite timid as well in a way. If any kind of danger came his way, he'd freak out. So he was just kind of an all-round bit of a, I don't know, just wasn't very nice, I guess, for the friends that he was hanging around with. But that for me was just quite a nice development of a character and development of characters around him, to see how they all act around him, if that makes sense. I'm not sure I'm really making a bit of a point here, but it's just it was just nice to know that rather than having like a huge storyline and a plot twist and all these things, you can have a very engaging and very still strange, because some of the little events, I won't obviously ruin it too much for anyone who's listening, but like some of the events that happen along the way are still very, very strange. Some of the things Crystal Fairy comes out with, and some of her past experiences that they sort of, as the film goes on, you sort of figure out is quite dark, considering you're on this quite nice, just easygoing, it's just a couple of guys wanting to go get high, kind of thing, which I suppose kind of comes with the drug taking. There's always a little bit of a sinister undertone to most of it, but
I think with stuff like that, it's also, I guess we're always told certain rules and certain things that need to be done to make a good film and all these sort of things. And I guess we naturally, if you watch a lot of films, you start to make your own links and your own rules, like, oh, these are the best films because this and this, and that's why, and then when a film comes along and you're like, well, actually that was really good, but it sort of broke all the rules that I thought existed, and I think it's quite freeing. Like, I don't think it feels good in the sense of like if you watch I guess the polar opposite would be watching like a film from your childhood, or watching a really good Pixar film,
like an aesthetically pleasing,
just something that
storyline pleasing, just a very
something that really resonates with you, and it's comfortable. You've seen it before. It's nice. It hits all the right notes, and it's great. And that those films need to exist, but also you need to be shaken up a little bit, and not need to, but I think to grow as either a film watcher or a filmmaker, you need to, I think, every now and again actively try to be shaken up.
Absolutely. I think that's also as well, kind of, growing up is such a big, films and movie, and just obviously now more than ever, like social media, like being such an influence over what people do, what people see, what even people say, all these things. And when you do have something that does, especially, and that's becoming almost the norm now. So the comfortable thing is, rather than watching like your comfortable film that you might have watched from your childhood, is now like, I don't know, sitting on Facebook videos and just scrolling through like, you know, the world's biggest failures and all those things. So that's almost becoming a comfortable thing in itself. So actually kind of seeing something, you know, even just long form film. Like I watched Rebel Without a Cause a while back, which was one of James Dean's films. And it was like 3 hours long or something, or 2.5 hours long. And I was like watching it going, man, it's like, I can't remember the last real film, you know, the film, just sort of a general, you know, I'm not talking like a, you know, blockbuster Tarantino kind of thing, because obviously like, you know, or Scorsese, but you know, back in the day that was like, you know, the general attention span was way, you know, unless you are the likes of Tarantino or Scorsese, it's like the attention span is always, and I mean, even working in the film industry the way I'm working in it now, you know, we're always told to kind of, you know, I work for brand film and stuff like that. I'm assuming we'll get onto that in a little bit, but it's always told to kind of keep it short and sweet, so you kind of maintain the the viewers' attention. So it's just kind of strange, I think, obviously how many distractions we've been given over the years, that it's really, you know, made an impact on how we engage and ingest.
Yeah, the pacing of films, like there's always sort of like a few things that I know an average film goer or someone who's not that interested in film, just does it to sort of pass the time type thing. There's a few things I know that's just going to turn them off, and one of them is pacing. If something's a bit slower than sort of a Michael Bay blockbuster, or another thing is foreign films. Like if it's like a foreign film, people will be like, oh no, I don't want to watch it. Black and white. Yeah,
it's almost
old.
An immediate put off.
Yeah, and it is a shame, because I think, I mean, I had this with my mum a few months ago. There was a film I really wanted to watch called The Farewell, which is sort of like a American Chinese film. And she said, "Oh, is it subtitled?" I was like, "Yeah, let's just watch it and see." And she loved it, and that was good, because it was like, I think trying to open people's eyes to these things. Sometimes you need to choose a film that's, I mean, it was a very likable film. It wasn't too strange or anything, so that helped. But just showing like, oh, just try this, and it, you know, you might actually end up liking it and expanding your film horizon.
It's surprising actually how, because that's just like that, just like literally giving it a go. You're just surprised how much you actually do enjoy it. Like, for instance, I've been trying to do recently watch like all kind of classic films. So I think I started with Hitchcock's Rebecca, because obviously in light of the new Rebecca that's come out with Lily James, which is half the reason I wanted to watch it. I watched the original with my mum, but I didn't even know it, and that was another thing as well that sparked. I didn't actually know it was a remake. It was like one of those things where I didn't consider Rebecca being a Hitchcock film. And then we watched the original, and it was like, man, it was great. It was really quite, like, you know, genuinely quite compelling. The characters even were quite, you know, they're all over the top and theatrical as they kind of were back in the day, but like they were just so, it was just such a compelling storyline. You know, you kind of got into the what's the word? Not the semantics, like not formation. Shit, what am I trying to say? Basically, you got to know each character and their connections and how it all, you know, the overall meaning of the story. What am I trying to say there? You can help me out. You're good with words.
So
then.
Like it, there was like, I haven't seen it. So is there like different things going on?
No, it was just like the way it builds. Like, you know, just the general overview of, you know, the moral of the story, I think is probably what I'm trying to get at. You know, once you kind of work out all the characters and as the film goes on, there is like a real overarching moral to the story. Which is really good. And then I watched Wuthering Heights, the original.
Oh, okay.
And I watched Vertigo last night. So I'm kind of going on a bit of a, obviously not Wuthering Heights, but Hitchcock train.
Did you, out of the classic films you watched, have you got one that stood out?
I mean, Vertigo for me, but and Rebecca. I thought Rebecca was just really, really good, really compelling. But they were, like you say, like when you're watching it, it takes a while to kind of kick in or like kind of get that movie buzz, you know, because obviously you're so used to the big glamorous glitzy Hollywoodized cinematic, new, 4K, 8K kind of viewing,
Mm.
that when you do watch this, that's like almost an immediate, I'm probably going to fall asleep within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But, you're kind of literally watching it as if, if you kind of go into it almost like thinking you're just going to listen to an audible book,
Yeah.
but with a bit of a visual.
Yeah.
You can kind of, I don't know, it's probably a worst analogy, but like, well, I don't know, that might be a way around it.
I mean, that Dogma film, I was like, this is going to be really slow. I knew it. I knew it was going to be slow, and it was. But I went into it thinking it's sort of like a meditation. I'll just take it as sort of like it's just going to wash over me, and I'm just going to, it's almost like a goal to set myself. I'm going to watch the whole thing, start to finish, and it's more like, just to slow me down, almost like a personal improvement thing rather than watching it to enjoy it. And then when I had that point of view with it, then I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would. So I think, some films, it's, like you say, we're conditioned to be like, right, the first 2 minutes, I'm going to be hooked. Something crazy is going to happen. Then the character's going to go on a journey and it's going to go bam, 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 bam. And then at the end, I'm going to be like, sweet, awesome. That was a great way to, kill some time for 2 hours. I guess it's the approach going into it.
Like, how many times do you find when you're trying to suggest a film to someone? And I mean, I could probably count way more times than we should, but you'll go honestly, just give it the first 10 minutes, and if you don't like it, we'll turn it off. It's like you're giving someone just like a real kind of early snippet, and you're hoping within that 10 minutes, which is probably longer than it's going to take to captivate someone usually, but you're just hoping that it's just going to grab their attention, rather than, like you say, with that film you were watching, it's like just going into it with just that conception of like, I'm just watching it for what it is, opposed to what I want it to be.
And I think it's a good point. And so, I mean, going back to sort of like the uni thing, you were saying sort of one of the things was like teamwork and like strengths and weaknesses and realizing where you sort of fit. Where for you did you feel like at uni were your sort of, where did your strengths lie? Maybe where did your weaknesses lie? Where did you sort of tend to fit quite well in a team?
I tended to fit quite well, I think, with filming. I quite liked composing images. I think one of my first courses was on cinematography, so I like all of our shots had to be well crafted and thought out. With the gold, fucking hell, I can't even remember what it is. The golden circle, the golden spiral.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And just general rule of thirds, we had to take all those things into account. And again, these are things that you take references from in films, and I think
I've got to say that golden spiral. I haven't thought about that since uni.
I know. That's why I couldn't even remember if it's called like the golden. I don't know what it's called.
I haven't used that once. I've never set up a shot and gone. Even at the time, I was like, I don't get it. What?
I really felt, when they picked out a lot of shots, like in No Country for Old Men, I think it apparently used quite a lot.
Right.
I really just feel like they just got lucky with some of the screenshots they picked out, and they just shoved it over it, and then just went. You could see how like the spiral, you're kind of captivated with all the little objects in there. It's like, man, come on. Like, I'm not saying it wasn't used, but I don't know. Yeah, I think there's a certain thing that you can. I don't know. Not saying that I'm great at it, but I felt comfortable enough to kind of put myself forward for someone who would be of that role of cinematographer, and we'd always take each other's opinion in for account. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt I had quite a bit of an eye for composing shots and kind of understanding what a particular shot would mean to the scene. And
I think in third year you and me worked on that. I think Transients. Even though the final film,
that's Suspiria Blinds.
Yes, well, that was the first thing. That was awesome. That's one of my proudest films. Was that Suspiria?
That was like a Tom Gein moment. That was like a Tom Gein film, and it was that kind of short and sharp.
Yeah, it was so perfect because it was 15 seconds. Once you've got a longer time frame, there's so much more room to mess it up. But when it's constant, we entered a Halloween competition. It was like a 15-second horror film. So in 15 seconds, you've got to tell a story. And this was the first sort of project we did together. And it was just us two, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
just us. We just rented the camera from uni, and
yeah,
we were quite lucky with the ending because the ending wouldn't have been there had we not nicked a cat.
yeah, stolen a cat. Yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, I remember that, and then going with transients, and you being the cinematographer, and that sort of relationship dynamic started. I would
Mm.
say as well, one of your strengths, and this is away from the technical side of it, but I think just as important, if not more important, is I think you always were able to keep morale high on set, and maybe not even consciously, but because you were upbeat, because you were energetic, because you sort of brought that to it, I think it made sets
Don't
more.
be crass, Dan. I'm a damn grump.
I'm being ironic.
Oh,
but
thanks, man.
but yeah, no, I think that was a strength at uni as well, and since uni as well. But were there any weaknesses? Was there anything that you felt you struggled with,
Uh,
or you?
oh
Anything?
man, yeah. I think my weaknesses were always the technical side of things, like, and it still is to an extent. Like, I'm a lot better with it now, but you'd work with people that are very, would give you the proper ins and outs of a camera and a lens, and I kind of, I mean, even my mate, even Alex Berry kind of has the same thing. It's like we can do it when we're in practice. We know what we need and we can work it out, but to try and explain it and talk about it with people, just I don't know why. It's just I can't. I'm not as confident enough for saying. I just know, like, I know what I need. I know how to set up the shot. I know how to set up a camera,
Mm,
and so it's probably something I should work on. I should still be working on, which I am in a way. So I'm a little bit more. I'm a hell of a lot more technical than I was when when we were at uni. But yeah, I think at the time that was definitely something that was my weakness. It was not, kind of probably having to spend more time and researching things because I didn't know it from my own
mm,
technical background, or my own technical knowledge. I wouldn't be able to go, oh, this is the lens you'll need for that particular light. This is the camera you need, blah, 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 blah. I'd have
yeah.
to like go, I want this camera because I know how to shoot on it. Therefore, I'll try and work out the ins and outs later.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, even when I talk to people who have been in it, like the industry for a long time, people are still like working stuff out, and people still Google stuff on their phone on set, and like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's it the technical side of it. Unless you are very very technically minded, and you went
Mm,
into film wanting to sort of pull a camera apart and work out
yeah.
everything, and then it's usually, I think, the more challenging part, because it is usually creatives who go into it.
I think
It's
you do need to have, like you say, like a very technical mind in general. Like, I feel like you need to have that. And man, I don't.
mm.
Like, I don't know what's going on up there, but it's there's not much sense to be pulled out of it if you were to dissect it. But yeah, it's but again, it's like one of those things where I think, when you work with people, you hope that you're understanding and know how, and basically the ultimate thing is, as long as you can get the project done to, like, the standard that you all want it to be, so as long as someone knows what they're doing when they're doing it, I'm not going to rely on someone, having to prove themselves by telling me, the the particular screw head on a particular Canon lens, all that shit.
Yeah,
So as long as you're confident in knowing what you're doing, and we're all there to help each other, then I think that's worth, well, not worthy more, but it's, I've been on shoots where people do kind of lord it over you a little bit when they clearly know more about it than you, which is great. That's kind of what you need. You do need people that do know these things, but at the
mm.
same time, you want to maybe, going back to your morale point, there is like trying to make sure that you're not undermining anyone.
Mm.
Obviously there's different tiers when you're on bigger sets of people, like ADs and first ADs and all that. So there is a bit of a tier structure, but ultimately, with like small shoots and things like that, you all kind of got to pitch in. So
Yeah, yeah. So like after uni, then, what was your first year like? Like, you're sort of out of uni now. It's probably, especially for creative people, and just in general, you come out of uni and it's just like,
yeah,
oh,
I'm,
what
I'm
now?
laughing because you know where this is going. So me, Dan, and Becca,
Uh-huh.
was one of our friends from uni, was part of a... Well, it was actually Dan, you first, wasn't it? So you basically started work with this guy called Nick, who works for NCS, which was like a Youth Connections sector program that helped sort of, disunfortunate kids. Disunfortunate, is that the word?
Disunfortunate, no, but it is now.
Disunfortunate. Oh, I'll coin it. If Beyonce can have bootylicious in the dictionary, I'm having disunfortunate.
That's a double negative, so that's fortunate.
Fortunate kids, maybe.
And it's unfortunate.
Wow. There you go. Look, words are just trying to get out. But yeah, that was, as you probably people may know of like Youth Connections, we went around on these, what were they? I was just about to call it a retreat. Yeah, it's not like a spa weekend for these kids.
And it wasn't just disunfortunate kids. It was, I think it started, I think NCS started as that, but I think by the time we were doing the filming, I think it was pretty much any kid.
Oh yeah, any kid. It was just like, you'd always find the majority of kids came from either quite slightly troubled backgrounds or...
Sure.
A lot of them. I mean, yeah, I don't want to just summarise or generalise, but...
Disunfortunate backgrounds.
Disunfortunate backgrounds.
Yeah.
It sounds like a word.
Well, hey, the dictionary is an ever-changing thing. So, I mean, if you push it hard enough, then you can make it a word.
I mean, the dictionary doesn't just stop, surely. We haven't come up with all words.
No. That's one of the...
Otherwise, maybe we have, because obviously the dictionaries were printed. You don't, print a book and then... Oh, actually, no, what you do, I suppose that.
Yeah.
I was about to say you don't print a book and then, write more. I guess that's what a sequel is.
Stop, J.K. Rowling. That's enough. You're not allowed to write anymore.
That's enough.
Okay, so I guess that was straight out of uni, wasn't it? I'd already been working for Nick for about a year, and then we went into it in the summer. So how long were you there for? I
think I was there for... I'm trying to work out because I'm pretty sure that was as soon as I came up, because I started... Yeah, we were working there, and then I think it all sort of... I mean, because obviously it was during term times that we would do that.
Yeah, it was holidays, yeah.
Holiday terms. That we do that. So then I remember getting... we were there for... I think I was there for maybe 6 months. Maybe 6 months of over the course of an academic year.
Yeah.
So I remember being there for a summer.
Yeah.
The whole of the summer. Then in October.
Yeah.
And the sort of Halloween-y period. And then... I think one in February or March, and then I think that was it. And then basically, I remember getting a job at a Luton Airport parking cars.
Okay.
And whilst I was doing that,
was it?
whilst I was doing that, I was applying for jobs, and I managed to land a job at a company quite nearby to where I was living, which was quite fortunate. That sort of springboarded me into my sort of film career, I guess, because that was where I was literally employed, PAYE kind of style, to make films for quite exciting brands as well, which was quite a huge thing. I think I was 22. It was mainly sort of automotive, which I think I felt like I did steal someone's job because I had nothing about cars, and boy did they know that. I'd be get told to film the chassis, and I'd be hovering around the hubcap. And
gone back into the garage to film the chassis. The chassis on the car.
Yeah.
You're
chassis. She's chassis. She's not on the call sheet. I don't know chassis.
She's chassis.
Chassis. You want me to film chassis? Do you want me to interview her or?
Right, you chassis.
Yes. Somebody lost a dog. But no, it was mad. It was an invaluable experience. I was still quite young. I was super young, and I was more enthusiastic than I was. No, I'll give myself discredit. I did good there. I was just very I think they were the things I learned along the way, especially getting into that kind of style of filmmaking, was understanding deadlines and actually not just being creative, but actually kind of working to, right, I need to check films. That
Right.
was a big thing that I remember being told off quite a few times about, because I'd send over films with mistakes in it or glitches or things like that purely because I hadn't checked. I hadn't like watched the export.
Mm.
So that's that's a tip. um, yeah. So save yourself a few awkward conversations. But yeah, no, that was great. It took me around the world as well, which was amazing. At such a young age, kind of went to America, did a whole like rally around Africa, and yeah, it was just it was such an amazing understanding as well for such a it wasn't necessarily a small company, but in the terms of its sort of scale as individuals within there, I think it was only like 14 people at the time.
Okay.
But their clients were just huge, so obviously they ended up signing off amazing projects. And it was such a young team as well that was on board, and they had all the kit as well. It was like kind of being back at uni where they had their own little kit section, and I started off basically just being a junior camera operator and editor, and part of that would be like looking after all the kit. So I got to know the kit a little bit better. I got to know how to use cameras and lenses and just general little accessories you don't think of needing on a shoot. I just need a camera and I need a lens and maybe a tripod. I don't ever think about like the base plate of a tripod or like the feet of a tripod are going to make it easier to work with. All these little things, which was another like kind of invaluable lesson there. And yeah, that was kind of
So it gave you
NCS.
quite a good like education and discipline of
Yeah,
working.
of like the real world of like sort of it was still quite corporate, but it was, I think, because of the nature of what we were shooting a lot of cars and races and things like that. So there was an element of excitement that we were able to put into the edits. It wasn't just a standard, stock image talking head. There was a little bit, and a lot of the races we'd film had a bit of a storyline because we'd be filming it as the race is happening, which was also another like insane thing. We'd have to like do these 3-day races and get a one film out per day. So
Wow.
one of us would be sitting there editing and the other two would be going out filming, coming back with the footage, then going back out filming, and the guy would just be ingesting footage and editing it to get a film out, but by the time the film is the race is finished. So we're trying to then, because then that kind of builds up, there's a story behind the race and everything, like one of them might be doing so well and then someone overtakes or whatever, that kind of probably making it sound really really boring, but no, it was just really good. It was like really good fun to like kind of work to deadlines. I think that as well like really kind of helped me as become a better editor as well, because in terms of deadlines, there was probably the tightest deadlines with the most amount of footage to deal with and having to craft a storyline as well in such short amount of time is when you think about it is just mental. But it can be done is another thing that you can sort of take away from that. And
Yeah. So
yeah, it was.
I guess it
sorry,
was pushed to your limits, pushed past your limits. It helped you to learn very, very quickly, making I guess a lot of mistakes. But from those mistakes, that then you were stronger at it. I mean, were you mainly doing editing or filming, or was it pretty much sort of 50-50?
It was quite 50-50. Especially on the race days, when we had to go on location film, I'd be mainly filming because, yeah, I mean that was kind of what I think they were attracted to begin with, was sort of my filming style, and then but obviously like part of the job was like you're gonna have to edit as well. So a lot of the jobs we do, we kind of get quite well managed and put on jobs, for me to edit this that, and the other. But on race days, I think it got to, because I hadn't done it before, the actual pressure of doing an edit for someone who's never done that kind of deadline before is quite daunting. So it was a real nice build up to being able to be allowed to edit. Not allowed, but like it's just, I think if I'd got given an edit to do straight away with that kind of time parameter, I'd have shat myself.
Yeah.
But overall it was 50-50.
So what aspects of that job did you enjoy the most?
What do I enjoy? I really enjoyed just the general being able to go out on location. It was like my actual, like the idea of, first and foremost, the idea that I was filming and editing things was my job, considering my previous jobs to this was parking cars,
Mm.
working in shops, you know, all these kind of like what you kind of deem as like just getting a job to pass the time. Blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
And I should
It's
just
like this was
also
something that I was,
point out that when we were doing work for NCS and Nick,
yeah,
that was freelance, so that wasn't a full time
that
job.
was freelance, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that was another kind of posed another sort of issue and just headache in itself because I was fresh out of uni. I thought I wanted to go freelance, but then didn't understand the formalities of a freelancer, like, you know, dealing with taxes and all those things. So
So was
yeah,
that
I got a pretty
so? How was that then? What was your sort of learning? Just to focus a bit on that.
my
What?
learning curve was I realized that when I came out I wanted to be a freelancer, but I didn't, again, like we were talking about earlier, my understanding of focus, you know, focusing on what's actually needed. I scratched the surface with freelancing. I was like, right, I can just do work for money, brilliant. But then didn't really didn't like consider the fact that I'd have to pay tax, you know, so I'd get paid for all these jobs. I then didn't understand how to do my self-assessment, all these things, all the like boring stuff that, you know, as a freelancer you kind of have to do, and then just got stung with a horrible bill, and I was like, man, I don't want to do this. I haven't got enough work coming through because NCS was pretty much the only person I was working for
Yeah.
at the time. So it was like I don't have enough money to
Was it?
warrant the amount of money that I'm having to spend. So it was the idea of then going, and I'm not, you know, if I can get a job doing this but actually be paid and obviously, like, you know, fully above board on the books, then
Was it
that would
sort of
work.
like? Was it just a tax, or because I guess in the
Yeah, it was just daunting. I think it was like the tax thing. The tax was like just a big, like, kind of almost like a real realization of, man, there's a lot that goes into this, and I'm just really not prepared, like mentally or, you know, kind of skillfully, even, like, to just kind of take on, to kind of get myself enough jobs to kind of warrant me being a freelancer. Like, I was just lucky enough to know you, that obviously got me the job with Nick to get that job. I didn't have any other jobs lined up. I think my extent of my job reach was that wedding venue that I went out to, and that was it.
yeah.
So
So a
yeah, I
big
think
part of it was
my
finding the work as well, and actually
yeah,
having work
and
that you
actually
could rely on.
having yeah, that's it. And then also as well, I think, again, as I was growing up, I kind of realized, you know, I got given so many amazing opportunities along the way. Like I managed to film a music video out in LA for a friend. I did some amazing, like, shoots with friends as well. So I was kind of getting all these opportunities, but they were so sporadic and they
Mm,
weren't, you know. And I was starting to realize that this is what I wanted to do, and I wanted to kind of pursue this as something that, you know, is a lifetime career. So that was when I was like, right, I kind of need to get a job that's just I'm gonna learn from. I'm not gonna have to worry about all the formalities and technicalities and boring bits.
mm.
I can just focus solely on just trying to learn and get better. And then yeah, so I was there for, like, I think a year and a half or something, and then because of, like, the amount of times I just, you know, I got quite comfortable there, I think, and, you know, it was quite a social um, group of people. Everyone got along with each other, but obviously my a lot of what the work I did, you know, forgetting to add bits to kit and things like that, they just ended up letting me go because it happened too many times, which is understandable. Like, you know, like, looking back on it, it's just like, man, that's it's once you do a couple of things and you get told about it a few times, it's like, man, I need to, which I did, you know, you kind of go over, like, right, I'm going to check each video, and then over time you get a little bit more comfortable and you forget to check one, but because you've already had that conversation, it's double the double the punishment almost. But
You
yeah,
seemed at the time, if you don't mind me saying, you seemed quite happy to go. Like, do you mind talking about and the
yeah,
downsides of
no, I
working
was
there,
happy.
like some of the stuff that?
Yeah, I think I was happy to go because it was at the point where we were filming and I just wasn't passionate about cars.
Mm,
So you know, I was quite passionate about wanting to carry on with film, but it was, and at the time as well, slightly different tangent, but I was started up a band that I was actually really quite enthusiastic about, and kind of with that came working on music videos and things, so all these like external entities that were kind of progressing in my life, I was becoming more passionate and more proactive about, which was also then putting a bit of a, back foot on my actual job. So I started giving less attention to the work that was paying me and more attention to the work that wasn't.
Sure.
And
was
and
also
sort of over,
an aspect of it like the amount they were working you for the amount of pay you got?
yeah. Oh yeah, like I think considering the amount you would work, I mean, you did get like a lot of the money back, the overtime, but
Oh, okay.
it just wasn't. It wasn't. It was. I think it's, again, this is like competitive. At the time, it was quite low, but it was a lot more than I was ever getting paid anywhere. So that was amazing.
Yeah.
But kind of knowing it now, it's living in London and working on a London sort of competitive rate. It's you kind of need to live in that area. You can't really live in London and kind of almost expect to live in London on that kind of wage, that kind of thing. Because it was. I mean, I'm not a financial advisor, so I don't know what is what is a right amount to pay someone of that. But I don't know. There was a lot. We work weekends, we work this, we work that, and we get a lot of it back. But at the same time, it was still not. It was still quite low pay, I think. For me, for what I felt anyway, the work that we were all doing was quite good. But yeah, I mean, there was a few aspects of it that I think there was the team as well got quite became quite cliquey, and like I say, when I started sort of not focusing too much on the work, I'd kind of distanced myself from them, so kind of I'd be then focusing on the band and other bits of filming. And yeah, I don't know. It was just, I think there was a bit more of a click there to begin with. They were great guys. They were really, really nice. But yeah, I think is you kind of when you slot in well to a situation opposed to when you don't. And yeah, I think I was definitely the sort of different kind of person that was I was a little bit more into indie rock and roll, had long hair, and I think it was a lot of
and they liked football.
A lot of guys and they like football, house music, and But no, it was no. I'm not going to stereotype people for their interests, but yeah, it was really good fun. They were really good guys.
Sure, yeah. So after you got let go from there, what was your sort of thinking? What did you have any plans? Did you just try to look for a film job straight away? Like, what was that?
No, man. I was kind of like, there was a slight air of relief that it was kind of I was like, man, I felt like I was going to be here forever, because I think with the band and stuff, we started gigging in London, and the idea of like being in London was like amazing. And obviously, like when I was talking about the competitive rate in London and working in there, was like, oh man, I don't know if I can. I'd have to leave this job literally to go and try and pursue a career in London. I can't like work here and live in London. So when that happened, there was a part of me. I was like, wow, okay, cool. Can do this now. I can just kind of like look for work in London. Like I know the sort of job roles that are out there because I've now worked in one, and I've also got to know a few others because of working there. In terms of like the line as production manager, production coordinator, all these like jobs that are kind of subsections to the film industry. So I was a little bit more. I was able to kind of like home in on those and looked around London, and then started. I then went freelance again, and I started properly freelancing. Like kind of got to grips with. I had an accountant and things like that.
How was that the second time sort of going freelance?
It was still a bit daunting, but it was. I had a little bit more of an understanding because I got a contract job with a few companies. And then when that contract ended at one of the companies I was working at, I didn't have anything else booked in, and that's what really worried me. I was like, oh man, don't know what I'm going to do. And almost, I can remember this like quite weirdly. On the day I got called from a company called Casual Films, which I previously been at for like 2.5 years, but they called me on that day that I just found out that I didn't have any, that contract came to an end and I didn't have any work booked in. They said come in for an interview. And yeah, I was then jumped into Casual Films, which was a
What, you'd been with them
corporate film
for
company.
2.5 years before that?
No, sorry, as in like the company that I'd been for from 2.5 years from now.
Oh, okay.
From this conversation.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, that might come across confusing. But anyway, I got this call from Casual Films when I left.
Oh, okay.
Which was roughly about 3 years, 4 years ago now.
Right. And you were there for 2.5 years?
I was there for 2.5 years.
Wow.
Maybe 3, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Was that the longest you've ever been at one?
Employed, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how was that? So what was the sort of journey with them? What was the sort of stuff you learned, or what was your sort of experiences?
Again, it was a lot more time management. Yeah, and I was a lot more focused on editing there, because the jobs, I would still film. I was basically the same role, but it was a little bit more. They were a company that basically, what's the word I'm looking for? It was a company that outsourced a lot of filmmakers and directors for shoots, and we'd go on the odd shoot here and there.
Right.
And it was probably a little bit 25, maybe 30% filming, 70% editing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it kind of just improved me a little bit more on my editing skills, which was good. And the team there was amazing. Like, that's the one thing I noticed about living in London even to now, is like a lot of the teams, especially freelancing, going into companies, it's just, there's always, it's never as daunting as you kind of may think. It's always quite a really nice team. They always click. There's always, it's not as, and that's the one thing as well I noticed, it's never as grand a scale as I think it's going to be. When I think of a film company, I'm like, wow, it's going to have like green screen rooms and production rooms and all these things. It's usually just like one open plan office, and everyone's just like hauled in it.
So how did Casual Films compare to your previous one?
In terms of work life, as in like, enjoyment, I much more enjoyed it at Casual, just because I felt I connected a little bit better with the people that were there. I was a little bit more experienced as well, so I kind of came into the role with a little bit more confidence. In even like as the years progressed while I was there, like becoming a bit more confident with suggesting ideas and kind of actually putting ideas out there and things like that. But in terms of the work, I would say I had more fun on projects, just because of the nature. Like, Casual was a little bit more kind of London corporate. Whereas my previous production company that I worked for, it was all automotive. So just in terms of the content that was being filmed was more exciting, and the projects, sort of, I was taken around the world a lot of the time. I was also taken, around a lot of Europe with Casual, but it was a lot more to do with talking heads, going out to film someone who couldn't make it to the UK or something like that, rather than going out to a race to film amazing cars and, all these like kind of visually stimulating bit of eye candy, basically.
Sure. Yeah. So, when did you leave Casual, and why? Or when did you
Well, I
leave,
left.
or?
I didn't. I kind of got let go again I lost. God, I'm going to sound really great to any potential employer. I basically lost. I lost a lot of interest in, purely, like I was saying again, like with that previous production company that I was at before Casual. I lost interest because I was young and I had like an idea of living in London, and I was starting out with a band, and all these things, all these music projects I was getting involved with, and I was just not into cars, so I kind of wanted to go from there, and I lost my focus, which is a bad thing. I lost my focus with like the company, and then with Casual I had the same thing. They could sort of see that I was putting a lot more effort into my external hobbies, which would be the band and other projects, than necessarily taking the time, which I'd be very good with the projects I was working on, but it was just a general lack of motivation and all these things that kind of went into probably the demise of my time there. But so that then I got I got asked to leave, which was, but under really good terms. There's no sort of malice there. It was just more they could see that I wasn't enjoying it. And it was almost like that because I'd even been planning on going freelance properly, like as in like actually giving it a proper go. And I'd over the time I was at Casual, I made so many like contacts, outside of Casual, even like, within like, freelancers that would come in, they'd be able to chuck each other work and things like that. So I was like, man, this is sort of lifestyle I kind of want to do. And, again, growing up, people, I guess, grow up in various different ways. I've sort of, mine's in my late 30s. My, early 30s is probably when I'm starting to, still probably not completely growing, but, there's definitely going to be way more mistakes I'm going to make along the way. But, yeah, and the time there was amazing, but it was almost like I wanted to go freelance. About a year and a half to 2 years in, and yeah, from there on, I was just almost focused solely on that, trying to make connections, trying to get projects underway, outside of work, because I was almost then seeing work as I come in, do my time, then leave, and then do the things I want to do outside of work.
Yeah. So I guess again with this one, it sort of made sense that you were let go because you were sort of happy and ready to anyway.
And it was, and I think the main thing, I was never going to do it myself, I don't think, because I was so, one, I was comfortable there, and I got too committed to obviously paying rent and stuff. So that was like just another factor that I'd like take on board, was as much as I want to just pack this in, I can't, because I haven't got anything else going on. I don't have obviously the money to support me for while I'm looking for another job or while I'm setting up myself as a freelancer. So when I left, like we left on good terms, I was able to like come back working with there, but it was almost like a bit of a kick up the arse that I needed. And it just kind of drove me a little bit to kind of like, source some actual work, get in contact with previous people that I've worked with, get in contact with the people that I had been working with, actually kind of let them know about my situation, get my show rolled together. And yeah, I don't know, it's worked. There's been no malice between anyone, but it's I guess in terms of the professional world, it doesn't look it doesn't look great. But at the same time, I'm kind of not kicking myself because I'm kind of now doing the things that I want to do. And it was just, I'm not very professionally professionally, what's the word? Enabled? No.
Adept, I think you said it. I think.
Adept?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I've realised over time, like, I've again, going back to our conversation at uni, what are our strengths and weaknesses? I think that's just, I enjoy doing the project. I think I've learned that I'm not really suited for corporate work, even though I'll do it now as a freelancer, because I then don't have the commitment of there every day, doing all the bits that I don't want to do. I can kind of just be hired to do the thing I do want to do. So yeah, freelancing for me, I think, is just like my only way around not constantly getting let go from places. Yeah. unless I fire myself, which is highly likely.
So how's it been going then as a freelancer? I guess the third time, sorry.
Third time, and this year has been absolutely awesome. Like, all things considering. It's actually been good work-wise. It's been really good. Like, I've made a bunch of new contacts with quite exciting clients and projects, and it's been steady as well. Like, I've kind of got a grip and a grasp on how to go about contacting people. I've got, I've now got a website in place. I've got a more exciting show reel that's obviously over the years I've been working on all these projects. I've been able to get a show reel together, and I've got a little bit more confidence in how to connect with people, how to talk to people, how to approach people. And I'm now, I'm doing it obviously all from the corner of my little room in London. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's kind of now all on the kind of time schedule not that I set, because obviously, if I'm working for a client, but it's just a nicer way of doing it. I kind of like working by either a project by project basis, or, if someone needs an editor for a week, I'm like, all right, I'm working all this week, and then I'll be working on something else for the next, which was quite nice. It was a lot nicer pre-COVID, because obviously I was able to go into all these different offices, work from here, work from there, meet new people. You know, you don't necessarily get integrated, which I do miss, but also as well that integration with the likes of that first production company I was working at, Casual. As nice as it is, I just got too comfortable with where I was, you know, and it became a bit too. I became a bit too much like a home bird, and I hated that. I hate feeling like I'm in a routine. I hate feeling like I'm bogged down or grounded down or held down. I like the option of being able to, you know, go wherever I want to go, work on whatever I want to work on. I don't, you know, if I don't have work, I don't have work. That's on me. If I do have work, it's because of the work I want to do, because I'm approaching the right or the people that I want to work with. Obviously, there's going to be jobs that I don't necessarily want to do, but it's the fact that I'm only doing it in short bursts. Kind of like I'm understanding now that I'm relying on my energy to be 100%. Whereas if I'm doing all these like jobs that I don't want to do with no particular end date, it's just going to keep going and keep going and keep going and keep, you know, it's, man, my mind doesn't work in that way.
Yeah. So you're finding it easier to get work now than you used to when you were freelance. You're finding it.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to like a younger self or someone who does struggle with that, who you know struggles with, because that's is probably the biggest challenge of anyone in any profession going freelance. It's there's no work guaranteed. So what sort of things have you learned, or do you feel stronger at now or better at now, that you think is really key for people to focus on if they're going to be freelancer? Let's just keep it as a filmmaker.
Yeah. I think, you know, well, first of all, you know, I'm still working on that myself.
Sure.
But you know, I think, you know, ultimately, I think one thing I would say is don't worry about um, your peers, if that makes sense. You know, how other people progress.
Right.
You know, for instance, myself, like, you know, I haven't progressed in the way that some of my friends progress, and it does bug you because you're like, oh man, should I be feeling like, what should I be doing this? Should I understand this, or should I do that? You know, and you know, I think you are gonna, oh man, what's the word? You are going to improve and progress in your own way, and I think that's you know, you're always going to you know, you're always going to feel like you're forcing yourself to do this, or you're not understanding this. You're always going to mess up. That's another thing as well. Like, don't be afraid to mess up. I think that's probably part of this whole thing. And the second thing, I think, if you're really, the one thing that I've sort of learned and kind of really trying to take the reins with, is like working on your personal ethos with what you want to do as a freelancer. Is like, rather than going, hey, I've got a show reel, I need work, because that's ultimately what you do. You're sitting there, you haven't got a job, you're not on the job book with anyone. You're your own destiny of work, if you want to call it that. Is kind of like, maybe just sit down or don't rush into it and just say, you know, what do I want to, as a personal creative freelance filmmaker, what do I want to bring to the table? You know, and when I say that, is who do I want to work with? What does the person I want to work with bring to the table? Does that align with my ethics, and is it aligned with the things I want to do? Is it doing good in the world? Is it doing whatever you want it to be? Whatever you want yourself as a freelancer to be, how does the person you're working with align to that? Because ultimately, then all you're doing is then just sending out your CV to people and saying, hey, have you got any work? The idea with this particular method would be looking at those people that you want to work with, and then maybe crafting an idea off your own back and pitching it to them almost. And that's something that it's come back, you know, I've done recently, and has actually come back amazingly. And it's the first time, you know, over the years, I've just been emailing people going, hey, I love your work. I love, you know, you do a little bit of research into their company, you do research into their projects, you'll note down a few of their films that they've done and why you like their films. And you'll just then probably round it off by saying, hey, if there's any work going, or if there's any projects you think I'd be fit for, please let me know. And then you're just on a please let me know basis. But if you've got something to show, rather than just asking that, is almost like going up to someone and saying, hey, look, I've got this idea, do you want to roll with it? It's almost like a bit more of a shock factor, I think, and actually kind of just I don't know. It's just a different way of going about it, but it's worked more than not more because this is the first time I've started doing this, but I feel like it's got more chance of working than it would just asking for people for
Well, yeah,
work.
I
It's
mean,
actually going up with a project.
yeah, I mean, it makes complete sense, and it's, yeah, I mean, it's gonna make you stand out, like, because
Mm.
the amount of emails they must get of people saying, oh, I love your stuff, and then, what, but actually preparing something, and I think it's a bit more of a risk, obviously, because you're spending all your time working on
Yeah,
something, and then if that turns to nothing, then the risk is you spent all that time for nothing. But the payoff can be much bigger, like you say,
mm.
and
And the
it's
learning. I mean, as much as you say, yeah, it's a bit of a waste of time. Like, ultimately, as a freelancer, you've got all the time in the world.
yeah,
But obviously, yeah, you do need to chart. You need to take into account that is time and money. That is the time that you're spending is. You need to kind of account for that. If the thing does kick off, you need to account for that time and how much money you want to recoup from the amount of pre-production you put in. But it's also that as well, just like learning how to craft ideas from nothing.
mm,
Kind of like looking at someone and going, hey, what does this brand or what does this project, what does this person or whoever you're approaching, what is it? What could they do? What could I do? You
yeah,
know,
it's sort of
what's
like
happening with them?
it's sort of like the quality over the quantity. That's sort of how I
Yeah,
felt, because I felt similarly. So when I came back from traveling last year, I sort of came back with a renewed passion, but I wanted to do it properly. I didn't want to just go in thinking I'm gonna do this and that, and work's gonna fly in. I was like, well, I'm gonna really think about this and really think about what I can offer people and how I can offer that.
yeah,
And yeah, I think that's one of the key things is like you say, really just spending that time, like not just sending out a generic email, not just just doing random stuff just in a rush and hoping you get it is really the quality over the quantity, and the more time you
mm,
take to do those things and to meet up with people. I mean, that's a big thing
yeah,
for me as well. I mean, it's obviously very difficult now, but spending that time to go 1, 2, 3 meetings before maybe work is even mentioned, sort of
yeah,
as putting in the groundwork type thing of and so yeah, no, I completely agree
yeah,
in terms of that as well. And I think the other point you made about comparing yourself to others, I think that's absolutely right. I think most, unless they're sort of like holier than thou, like perfect minded people,
mm,
any freelancer is gonna struggle with that because it's and especially this sort of profession where, and a creative profession where people can just, you see people like who have very little skill. I'm not talking about people we know, but I'm just talking about like in general, you hear these crazy stories of just like people
yeah, yeah,
spike in and then just they just stumble across the right person, the right place, and then they just become
yeah,
really successful or whatever. Or I know that a couple of my friends really hate stuff like the X Factor. You get people like Jedward who
yeah,
who
yeah,
become
yeah.
it's I mean, obviously that is a much more famous and bigger level, but that on a smaller level as well. Just trying not to get sucked up into that, because I think it
Sucked us
always,
into like the ease of success,
well,
like
not
that we're
just the ease, but
presented.
also the competitive thing. Like, it's obviously it is a competitive industry, but the more that you can stay out of that mindset, and the more that you can sort of just work on doing your own good thing well. And also, I think it's easy to think people are doing well. Like, it's easy from the outside to think, well, they're doing great, and therefore I want to be like that. But it's like, I've talked to quite a few filmmakers recently, and the ones that I maybe were most envious of was like, wow, they've gone through some of the hardest times, like,
Mm,
and they've had within work, even, it's not like they've had just crazy personal stuff going on. It's like within the work they do, there's all this undercurrent of stuff that you just have no idea about. Um,
yeah, absolutely.
and so it's, yeah, I think that's a really good point. Is you're gonna feel jealousy, you're gonna feel
Yeah,
like everyone's better,
absolutely. It's
but
natural.
in the end, like, the more that you can just focus on your own thing, and another thing I think is when you do feel jealous about someone, another good approach is just to learn from them. Like, give them a call, or
what do you like about what they've done
yeah,
and things like
yeah,
that, and why, and like, oh shit, that's great. How did you do that?
yeah, ask their advice, and and then you can make yourself grow, because obviously if you're just sitting in bitterness, it's not going to get anywhere. So I think that's a really good one.
And also just then again, like, confidence with your own work. Like, for instance, as much as you might be jealous of someone else's, that doesn't necessarily mean that yours is any less than theirs.
Yeah.
You might, it might just be a particular project that you would have wished you worked on, that kind of thing. And, it doesn't mean to say that your work is any less better or whatever. It just, again, this thing comes back to, sending out 10 emails opposed to working on, spending the time you'd spend on 10 emails working on one particular idea or something that kind of stands you out with the particular project you want to work on. Then you stand more of a chance of getting the thing you want than 10 other things you might be okay with doing, sort of thing.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's that. Yeah.
So what's like the next steps for you? What are you feeling like? What is there like, where would you want to be in 5 years ideally? What sort of projects are you interested in? I want to be an astronaut. It's in store
for old Eucalyptus.
Yeah.
Many things, multiple things. He's a man of many magics.
Yes.
But I think for the purpose of the podcast, I won't dive into too much of the raunchy business. I'll keep it clean.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Yeah, that's okay. I don't know. I'm kind of taking it as it comes. I'm working on a bit of a fun project at the moment, which hopefully is going to see us through to next year. And could potentially be the start of, starting up an actual business, rather than being a freelancer, actually becoming like a limited company. Potentially, like if all goes well, we're still in the very preliminary stages. It's that kind of, as soon as you get the one thing that you feel is like, oh my god, this is amazing, you then just start dreaming about what house you're going to have in the south of France, who you're going to be married to, all these things, and then before you've even started the project. So I don't know, I'm just trying to get my head around this before I can even think about I feel like future Aaron is just going to happen.
Sure.
Before I've even been aware of it. And instead of being in like a house in the south of France, I could be in the house of like Southend. Shouting at some seagulls, stealing their chips. So one can dream.
Yeah, it's someone's dream.
Someone else, yeah. I mean, I'd love to be that content.
Yeah.
With just
the only thing bothering you in life is seagulls. That's pretty good going.
Yeah, just and trying so hard. Oh, I had this theory. Okay, slight tangent. And this is probably going to either make or break this podcast.
Okay.
Or and me as a person.
Okay.
But I when you are speaking a foreign language, right? And you're speaking a foreign language with someone who can speak English, and they can correct you on things they understand. So, for instance, if I said "Auf Wiedersehen," I'm saying goodbye. But if I said it like "Auf Wiedersehen," slightly different. The person who I'm speaking it to, who was of the native tongue, would probably still understand what I'm trying to say. I've just said it slightly differently.
Yeah.
So I was out with my uncle and we were looking at some ducks in the pond, right? And my uncle did a very, very good duck impression. And I was there going, do you reckon they understood that? Like, do you reckon there was like a somewhat of a call that, because one of the ducks did just turn its head. And I was like, man, this is like, I feel like we might have not got it exactly, but they know what we're saying, And this is why I get fired from places. But no, it was a genuine, when like your mind just goes, whoa, man. That was one of those. UFO moments.
Beautiful.
Me.
That's great.
So, you know,
I think
that can be maybe the next podcast. Can animals understand us if we talk slightly like them?
Well, I mean, that is as good a place to end as any. On that,
cool.
Pond...
I feel like I feel like there was at least a few questions more, and it's like, okay, if this is where we come to, I think we should wrap it up here.
Well, we've been going for like an hour 45 minutes. So
that's my best yet.
Yeah.
It's usually about an hour 30. I'm in that kind of mark. But...
I thought it was like 10 minutes.
No, you're thinking of Aaron Forde.
Oh, okay.
Not Aaron Eucalyptus Ferdinandez the Great.
No, sorry.
The name suggests longevity.
I don't know what to do now, whether to put, because I always put in brackets the name of the person in the title. But if I put Master Aaron Eucalyptus Ferdinandez the Great, there won't be any room for the actual subject of the podcast.
AKA. Just AKA. Or just have that. I feel like you're going to get more traction with just the name.
Yeah. Like if it just said Johnny Depp, then that itself would sell it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Imagine just like Johnny Depp, boom.
Yeah. That's all I
sort
need.
Of
maybe I should just put that anyway. Just to get some more
maybe,
listeners.
Yeah. Maybe just say just Dan Brown in conversation with Johnny Depp. This is Aaron Eucalyptus Ferdinandez the Great. We all know this.
Sweet. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to sort of...
Is that all you need from me? Am I...
I was just... The whole
am I released from my bounds?
the whole time I was just waiting for a good duck story. So, yeah, we got that at the end.
Got there in the end.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
So thank you very much.
Quacking them out.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Aaron.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, Dan J. Brown.
No worries. Is there any...
Sorry. Dan J. Brown.
Dan J. Brown. Anything, any way you want to sign off this particular episode?
It's been an experience. It's always is with you.
Yeah.
It's an experience. You are an experience, I think. You are a human being, obviously.
Yeah.
In its pure form.
Mm-hmm.
But you're an experience, Dan Brown.
Thank you.
That comes in many forms.
And that
many shapes and sizes, many ridges.
And I'll fire that non-compliment right back at you.
It was a compliment.
It's sort of like when you've seen someone's you've shown someone a video that you just made and spent so much time on, and they go, "Yeah, it was interesting." Okay, just say yeah. Just say it's the worst thing you've ever seen. I'd rather that than.
I'd rather that. No, it was very nice to speak to you on a bit more of an indoor. It's quite nice as well, actually, like just to chat for this particular length of time, considering everyone needs to have a little someone to chat to, especially in these darker times.
Yeah.
So it's nice, man. Yeah, it's been. I wish you all the best,
and
all the good gibbons.
Lovely.
For the future.
And a Merry Christmas to all.
Yes.
And there I shall press the red button to end this podcast.
Farewell.
Goodbye.